to join the group today. And, just I'm looking forward to our discussion.
Super. Thanks, Tracy. I didn't want to speak for you. And truly, I just saw Tracy in the hall 10 minutes ago and said, hey, will you jump into this meeting with us? So there's, yeah, Tracy doesn't have any prepared remarks, and neither do I, actually. But as Tracy mentioned, and a lot of you were nodding, that you are aware that there are school libraries across the country whose collections are being challenged. And in today's agenda, I just grabbed the article that I've been kind of referring to since September. One of the very first schools whose materials were being challenged was in York, Pennsylvania. So in today's agenda, I linked to an article from the York, PA newspaper that describes the type of challenge that was made and what the individual in New York was objecting to were books that were recommended in the Google presentation that I have also linked in discussion. I'm going to grab a screen over here. I'm going to share my screen so you can see. All right, let me share. So where am I? There we go. So do you see the list of books? It starts with A is for activism, or activism and advocacy. Mm-hmm. Okay. So these are the specific books that were challenged in Pennsylvania, and I'll copy these and put them in our notes for today's meeting. So you can see the types of themes. What in York, PA, definitely what is being challenged are books that celebrate diversity and inclusivity. So far, we're seeing these as issues in school libraries, not so much in public libraries. But these are all, materials that most of them are very new. So they're newer books about inclusivity, newer books. Here's some in Spanish. And whoops, you saw part of my email. And so I want to make sure that you all know that these are some of the books that are being questioned. Specifically, these were the earlier ones that were being questioned, but I think I have lost track in the last couple of weeks about all of the schools that are receiving challenges. And so when Tracy and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, initially, I've always been the intellectual freedom person. Like when individual books are challenged or materials are challenged, which hasn't happened a lot, I'm the person who can help you connect to some thoughts about how you can address the issue, certainly connecting with individuals at the Cooperative Children's Book Center to help you with intellectual freedom challenges. But Tracy and I have been thinking that, as Tracy said, that we want to get ahead of this and have some ideas about, should you have a question, even from a board member? It doesn't even have to be a challenge, but should you have some questions from your community members about what's going on, that will have some resources for you. So we are going to be creating, we're just talking, really updating the intellectual freedom website. Tracy's idea of having a packet for boards for what do you need to know about this, and what are steps that library staff and board members, but especially staff who are at public service desks, what are some steps that you can take if somebody comes to you with a challenge. And so as this was, we've been thinking about this, I also started thinking about some public libraries in the country are starting to see First Amendment audits where individuals are coming into their libraries and filming, filming service, filming connections, filming conversations that these individuals have with library staff to make sure that First Amendment rights are being protected. So we're also going to include that information in the website. We'll link to what is allowable, because public libraries are public spaces, photography can happen, but what isn't allowable. People cannot film what others are looking at on computers. So patron computer use is a privacy issue. Certainly what people are checking out is a privacy issue. You can't, come around and check out and take a photo of what people are checking out, or, especially at self-check machines. So we want to pull together resources that can help you if that is something that happens at your library. And we definitely want to make sure that we connect to information from, like the ACLU about what is allowable and what isn't allowable, just to make you safe. So we haven't done anything yet, but this is something that is definitely on our minds. And the reason why I bring it up here, I'm going to stop sharing. The reason why I bring it up here is a lot of times, as you saw on the book list, the books are youth books, are children's materials and YA materials. And this is just a list of some of them. If you have, I think it would be great if we can share any news stories that you all see from other parts in the country or Wisconsin or even in the region. If there's a way that we can share with each other the types of materials that are being challenged, we definitely want to do that. We also want to, just keep everybody up to date. Oh, and we want to hear from you. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought for a minute. What you're thinking about, what your concerns are about this topic. What types of support would be helpful for you? Support, especially from the system. What could we do to help you feel safe and protected if you are ever faced with a challenge? So we don't, if there are thoughts right now that you have, please unmute and list it in and put it in. You can put it in chat, but we are, this is something that is going to take priority for 2022. Hi, Nicole, thank you.
I was just going to bring up Book Riot. Probably most of you are familiar with them, but I get emails from them, and they're wonderful just in general for library news, but they've really been reporting on the book challenges across the country a lot. So I would
Thank you.
Jensen, yes. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, Mary has it right there. Thanks, Mary.
Yeah, they seem to have something daily.
Yeah.
a new article daily. So they're a great source.
Okay. And maybe that's something that we can simply, link to in that intellectual freedom page, Tracy, where people can get the information. I forgot about Book Riot, so thank you. Yeah. Oh, Grace, yes, please.
Yeah, we haven't had a whole lot challenged at this point, but we have had a couple of things come up recently where it's kind of from the other direction, where people have been, I think the same people who might challenge a book have been wanting to donate books that are either full of misinformation or that kind of thing, and have gotten mad at us when we haven't put them on our shelves. Mm-hmm. We've had a couple that were circulating really well, so we did add those to the collection, but I'm just wondering if that would also be something that would be useful to add into the information. Some people are going to be questioning books that are already on the shelves versus somebody wanting something to be on the shelves and there being a reason maybe that there's not, but.
Okay. My first thought is, yeah, maybe we should talk about gift policies.
Yeah,
And
I
Tracy,
was just
that's
going to say that.
Yeah, yeah. As I'm looking at Tracy, like hey, Tracy, here's something for you to think about. Bethany.
Sort of piggybacking off of what Grace said. So because I haven't been in the Columbus position for very long, I've been here about a year or so. When I started seeing the articles about book challenges, I'm like, okay, this could come to us and we really should have a policy in place. And we did have a policy, but it's been needing some revamping for a while. So I approached my director about it. And she was really open to, yeah, let's dive into this and get this done. So we sat down with our adult services librarian, who is also an English person. And so we've been kind of hashing it out, trying to figure out how this is going to go. And then we'll be reviewing it with the board and that sort of thing. So we're kind of in the process at the moment. But that is something that came up for us with collection development. It's not only just things being challenged, but it's also people donating things to the library and their expectations with that versus the reality. Is it going into our collection? Are we sending it to the book sale? Are we giving it to St. Vinny's? What is happening to these books? And that is at the discretion of the library. So yeah, just piggybacking off of that.
Thanks, Bethany. Nicole.
I've also been in talks with my director and our library board about, because we also just revamped our collection development policy, but I think it will also be good to revamp our mission and vision statements. And I especially want to focus on key terms like diversity and inclusiveness. And I'll put into the chat here, I think I stole this from Monona Public Library. I think it's part of their vision statement maybe, and I really liked how they talk about windows into the community, mirrors for patrons young and old to see themselves represented. So I really want to start including those things more deeply into all of our policies so we can fall back on that too.
Thank you. The other thing that Tracy and I talked about, I'm adding a few things right now to the notes. Another thing that Tracy and I talked about was we were going to have to, I think, some type of professional development or continuing education as early as possible in the year of 2022. In the year of 2022, it's like 2 weeks away. Next year to have opportunities for people to even learn more about what is the issue, what is being challenged, and what are some suggestions. And that would go beyond youth services too. But we often are the ones who are approached, especially with those challenges. And anything else? Bethany, you had yours. Okay, so you can get a hold of me with any of these questions. I'll add Tracy's contact information to the notes, and let your staff, other colleagues at your libraries, directors know that this is something that we are just starting to work on. Okay. Anything else? Okay, and then Nicole, thank you for including the information from Monona. I'll link to that too. All right. So Tracy, you're welcome to hang out with us, or you're welcome. I know that you've been in meetings all morning, so
I have a little catch up to do, but it was great seeing you all, and I hope you have a great discussion for the rest of your time here. And again, any questions, please feel free to shoot me an email.
Thanks, Tracy.
All right, we'll see ya.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'll just move on to the next discussion item that I have. We could talk about other things too. I do not have anything scheduled for 2022 for check-in meetings. I wanted to check in with all of you. I'm still envisioning doing something like the monthly meetings. There are a few months that we found out we're all just, there's too much going on. Some of the summer months, November is a busy month. But my proposal to all of you is that I will put monthly meetings on the 2022 calendar, Tuesdays at 1 o'clock. The second Tuesday at 1 o'clock seems to be a good time for most people. So that's what I'm proposing we do. I will put things on the calendar so that we have a standing meeting, and knowing that we can, check in with each other. Informal meetings, of course. So I'll get that done before the end of the week. I also, we've had some really great book discussions about New Kid, which we've had 2 discussions. If there's interest, we'll do another discussion on that book in 2022. But I'd like to start thinking about other materials, other books that you'd like to read and discuss next year. So I was thinking Alatsoi, some of the, which is just a book that I can't stop thinking about, and it probably will be available in paperback pretty soon. What we typically do is I have a small youth services budget, and I'm happy to purchase paperbacks for book club participants. Then you get to read the book, you can keep it, you can put it in your professional collection, you can pass it on to other colleagues or even to a patron at your library after we discuss it. But it's a way for us to talk about new books, maybe some of the books that are included on the list that we saw in our other discussion. So if you have some ideas, let me know. You can put them in the chat if you have any specific ones right now, but I'm starting to think about how we can do that. The discussions have been really informal. It's nothing, it's not scholarly by any means. It's, very, very informal. And, we talk about how the book relates to even our lives and how we're using it in programming. So that will be coming up, at least another one next year. Maybe we can get 2 going on. And we have a message. Thank you. I'm going to need to use my mouse. Oh, award winners once they're announced in January. That's a great idea. Oh, that's a great idea. I meant to look up when the awards are announced next year. Does anybody know offhand when?
January 24th.
Thank you, Nicole. And those announcements are all available. They're dead live, so we can sit and watch and learn with the rest of the world when those announcements are made, when they're letting us know those Caldecott Newberry award-winning books and honors, and it's always so much fun. So that information, when I get it, I'll send it out. If one of you sees it early, send it out to Kids List or Teen Talk, so everybody who wants to can participate in that on early morning of January 24th. And then we can talk about those awards too. Okay, cool. And kind of going along with that we have another, what we're calling Book Bites program this Friday morning at 11 o'clock, where I'm just pulling some of the new books off of my shelf that publishers have been sending me. And some of them I read and some of them I haven't. And they just look like books that you might want to be aware of. So it's not CCBC Shorts by any means, which is tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. But it's just kind of, I want to share this abundance of books that I've been getting this year from publishers, and just letting you know what's coming out. I've been pulling books this month that look like they might be fun for next summer's water theme for the summer library program, especially books for tweens and teenagers, some books for middle school readers. So those are the ones that I'm thinking about highlighting on Friday. But if any of you have any books that you really want to talk about, it doesn't have to be just me talking about books all the time. You guys are the ones who have even more access and who are using them with youth. So I'll put a call out earlier, in maybe even later today, reminding people of the Book Bites program. It's linked to the agenda, and asking you if you want to talk, if you want to do a little book talk or talk about collections, that's the time to do it. Okay. I recorded the last one, but we're not going to keep those recordings as long, simply because they're informal and I don't know, just it feels dated, like it could get dated quite quickly. But we'll record it and then I post it out on Kids List, and it will be on the updated Youth Services webpage that I'm working on right now, and hopefully we'll get done in early 2022. All right. Anything about, oh, and then Jean and I are working on professional development programs, workshops, mostly webinars. We have CCBC Choices is set for spring, and I've linked to those dates. And I think we have nearly set the CCBC, what we call the choices, or the best books of 2021 for young children, younger kids is on one morning, and then books for middle schoolers and teens and older readers is on a second section. So those are what we're working on. We have the Youth Services Programming Workshop for 2022. The November one, we just had one, but I think we have scheduled that. And I think it's on November 11th at Old Brick Gardens in Madison. We have that space confirmed. We were able to do somewhat of a hybrid program this year. So if that's something that you would find useful for 2022, the dates are all messed up. Please let me know and we'll accommodate. Thank you to Catherine for asking about that. And we'll work on that again this year. We don't have any speakers booked. We don't have any topics. We typically play around a little bit with the upcoming summer library program theme for the topic or for the focus of that programming workshop, but it doesn't have to be. So if any of you know of presenters who you would love to see present about programming, let me know. Or let Jean know, because we're starting to look for that now, and the earlier the better for getting things on the calendar. So keep me posted about that. So yeah, lots of 2022 plans, which I'm sure you're doing right now too. Any questions about discussion topics? Okay, so let's go back up to announcements. I sent out the instructions for logging into the 2022 Summer Library Program manuals last week. I know some people have logged in, no problem, and others have been having issues using the access code to then assign a login and a password for your library. Have any of you gotten into the manuals? Are any of you having problems logging into the manuals, into the other resources, the clip art, the graphics? Oh, Heather, thank you. Okay. All right. I think, Bethany, good. And then have you all shared then the login and password information with others Yeah, Nicole, okay. Maybe it's just a couple of libraries then who have newer youth services staff who haven't connected with the CSLP yet. So that's how, thank you, that's helping me do a little bit of problem solving and troubleshooting. Is there anything that I can do to help you, really utilize the manual? I was thinking about maybe highlighting aspects of the manual at the meetings or book bites, or, whenever we have opportunities, even highlighting it via an email that I could send out once a month. I think this year's manual is especially good, and it's one of the better ones. I know that a lot of you, some libraries don't use the CSLP theme, and that's completely fine and appropriate if you do something that's best for your library, or if you go with the iRead theme. I think Deb and I are going to buy a copy of the iRead manual just so we have it. It's, I don't know, probably $25, so that we have it and so that we're aware of what's going on. So if there are libraries who are using iRead, we want to be able to support you somewhat too. Knowing that South Central's focus will always be on the CSLP because that's what is supported by the state. So that's the reasoning behind our support of that. But that doesn't mean that we will, just leave people in the dark who are doing their own programs or who are going with iRead. All right. Okay. The second announcement that I thought of is I placed orders for the Ellison and AccuCut dies for 2022. In the agenda, I linked to, which was I called my working document, where I was just putting the suggestions that I got from all of you into that document so I knew what to order. So if you want to see what orders have been placed, you can take a look there. I just got another request to come into the meeting, so I'm going to admit, there we go. So yeah, take a look at what those themes are. And Jeff Grant Turk over at Delivery, he and I have been working together. As soon as the dies arrive there, he will send out an email to the kids listserv asking you if you want to be a part of the rotation. So for new libraries, what happens is South Central purchases a bunch of Ellison or AccuCut dies that we typically put in support of the upcoming summer library programs theme, as well as just other dies that we don't have in the system. These dies then, as one collection, rotate from library to library who request them. It rotates with a little Ellison machine. And you then, the libraries who are participating, each library has the materials for like a day and a half. So you can start, cutting as many paper cutouts as you want to before it goes to the next library. Those materials, those dies, are then, after everybody's used them, it's usually in the fall, we then send a list out of the dies and ask, who wants these dies? Where should we house them? With the understanding that if they are housed at your library, that you make them available to others to lend. And we have some linking information about that, about how to add it to your how to add it to LinkCat in the catalog. So all of those materials end up in the libraries. So thank you to those of you who are hosting and have been hosting over the years. It really helps us out. So that's coming up. Any questions about Ellison dies or circulation of them? In today's agenda, I have linked to some of the very upcoming youth services events. So tomorrow we have CCBC Choices at 9. That meeting or that webinar will be recorded and available to view shortly after the recording. is uploaded. We also have book bites on Friday. And I'm going on vacation for the last 2 weeks of December. So if there's anything that is, I hope a lot of you, thank you. I hope a lot of you are going on vacation or taking some time off too. So I'm trying to get a lot done before the end of the week. So if there's things that are coming up or that, that you want to talk to me about, just email or call, and I can set up a Zoom meeting if we want to Zoom about things. If there's something that you've been waiting for from me and I haven't gotten back to you, please let me know. Because my intention is never to let you sit. Sometimes I miss things, so send me a nudge if you need to. And what else do I have? Upcoming youth services events. And we also have, I've also linked to some of the more recent recorded programs that Jean and I have that were sponsored by South Central. This is kind of off youth services topic, but my colleague Mark Yoakum and I are working on setting up a social work cohort, a social work intern cohort. We're working a lot with library directors on that, but to give you a heads up about that, we're working with social work students, with field placement officers in the schools of social work at UW Stevens Point and UW-Madison to work with their fourth year students. There might be a few graduate students, but we're not sure. Fourth year students to have their practicum and intern experiences in public libraries. Some libraries will have enough time to be a completely host and be the supervisor of a student. Other libraries, we are helping them work with neighboring libraries where South Central will be the supervising agency, and we can help you connect and have a cohort of libraries working together to host an intern. And we're sending information out about that as we're planning. We're in the early stages of planning. We anticipate that interns could start as early as next fall in libraries. We're looking right now for examples of specific tasks and activities that students might do in your libraries. Some examples have been technology help, help having times when students can help patrons, community members learn how to use computers to apply for benefits, do job searches, job applications. After school programming, like on the floor after school programming assistance, attending program partnership meetings with library staff members. So the more concrete examples we have for the students, the better we can help with those placements. The schools of social work are very, very hands-on with the interns. So they do a lot of supervisory support. They are completely liable for the students. There's been questions about liability with students. The schools of social work have that. And there are a lot of opportunities for checking in, both with interns and the field placement officers. I know, Nicole, up in Stevens Point in Portage County, that you've already talked to, or your colleagues have already talked to people at the schools of social work. We can help you do that too. If any of you want to connect directly with the field placement officer, just let me know and we can help you do that. But we don't have like a clear example of this is what the student will do, because every library is different, but we want to get ideas about things. All right. I think those were the big things on my list. What's going on? Any questions that you have for each other? How are you doing? Any things we should be aware of? Bethany.
So we've had a little bit of a resurgence of sickness, and not necessarily COVID, but some COVID as well in our area. So I was kind of wondering, like, what are you guys doing? Are you doing all virtual at this point? Are you Still kind of doing hybrid with limited seating, or what's going on for you?
We're continuing to do only virtual at this point, or not even really virtual, but just take home things. Especially with the kids, I think they're starting to kind of gear up for maybe some adult in person and maybe teen, just because they understand distancing a little bit better. But yeah, I've kind of planned my programming for winter and spring that I could go either way. So if at some point it becomes clear that we can start having people in the building again to do things like that, then we can go that way as well. So it's kind of in between right now.
Thank you. Nicole.
Yeah, I think we're going to be sticking with just virtual, or like Carrie said, handouts, probably until the weather is nice enough to do story times outside. We have not gotten the go-ahead to require masking for indoor programming, and that is the only way that my coworkers and I would really be comfortable doing anything indoors. And we just cut back on virtual. We had been doing daily virtual story times. We cut it back in the fall. And in January, we're cutting it back again because people really don't seem to be interested any longer, but our handouts are still going crazy.
Murray.
Yeah, I would agree with Bethany and Nicole and Carrie that we're like all our story times are virtual. We pre-record our bedtime story times because those are at 7 o'clock at night. We've been doing some special story times, like one of my colleagues went to the local cupcake place and did a cupcake story time at their place. This week we're doing Polar Express week. We did a Polar Express story walk in the library. So we're giving tickets to the kids. They walk the story walk. We have a train set up in front of the window in front of our workroom that has a motion sensor on it. So the train's not running all the time. And then they come to the desk, we punch their ticket, and then they get a bell with a Believe tag on it, so it can be like a thing they can hang on their Christmas tree or whatever. And then we're doing some virtual things this week to kind of tie into Polar Express week. And that's kind of what we're looking at for the winter, is just kind of doing our regular story times and a couple other virtual things, but kind of maybe planning like a week-long passive programming type thing, where patrons come in at their leisure, because we're thinking maybe doing something for one of the weeks of the Winter Olympics. And then the spring break here in Marshfield is the last week of March, so we might do something that week too. But the weather might be nice enough to where we could do some things outside that week too. But yeah, we're staying pretty much virtual because we're not requiring masks, and we as a staff definitely are not comfortable yet doing in-house programming, and neither are adult programs. All the adult programs are virtual as well.
Can I just say, if there is any way that you can do like some pictures of this Polar Express story walk, this sounds like a really, really cool idea. I know like for copyright things, like we can't have pictures of the actual book, but it sounds really cool. So if someone on the staff could like do a walkthrough and pretend to be a kid, and if that could be filmed, that would be great, because I would love to visualize that, because that sounds really cool.
And we could film that and post it for educational purposes. So, we could show the books. I love that you're doing a story walk in your library. It sounds great.
I'll whip something up and send it out.
Thanks, Murray. Catherine, did you have, yep.
Yes, so we too are doing all virtual programs, story times, book clubs, Dungeons and Dragons. And I have just planned my winter story times through March as all virtual. And we're doing take and make bags that we hand out. And I'm hoping in April we can get outside for story times. So that's what we're doing. We're also doing adult programs online. And we do require masks of everybody who comes in the library, but we're not doing any in-place programs yet.
Those of us who live in Dane County, we're fortunate that we can mandate, because masks, there is a mask mandate in the county here, which makes things easier. Grace.
We had done outdoor story times up until, I think, up through the end of November, and we still had groups coming. We have a pre-K class that comes by. And so they were coming really consistently. And then we did decide for the month of December to try out indoor story times. We have a big enough community room where we can space people out, and we do require masks. But honestly, that hasn't been getting the attendance that I thought it would. So we're gonna postpone those at least through the month of January, especially to kind of see what happens with COVID numbers after the holidays. But we will be starting to have some teen programming in person, a little like crafternoon for winter break. And I'm thinking about doing like a monthly skill building session each month throughout the spring. And then hopefully, yeah, just get back outside as soon as we can in the spring, whenever people will show up.
You mentioned teen skill building. Is that, can you describe what you're doing for that?
Sure. I had done some sort of similar things in a previous role, but kind of basing it off of what kids are interested in. So, you know, if we have a sewing afternoon, if we get somebody in the community who would have access to some like simple woodworking stuff, or I mean, really just kind of what the kids would show interest in and what they'd be into learning. I'd be happy to put on whatever they would come for.
Thanks for clarifying that. Carrie from Baraboo has listed in the chat that they're doing monthly school visits because the school district and daycares require masks. I bet the teachers are very happy to have us back in person. Yeah. Yeah, we need to take care of our teacher colleagues right now too. Were there any other messages in chat that I missed? Oh, I have missed a lot. I am so sorry. So we have scavenger hunts at Cambridge. I'll add all of these to the notes. Carrie, you answered another question, Carrie Kipp, that I had about teens. So your library teens have been in person since November. So some of you are having teen services. Take and makes at Cambridge, at Patty, with their scavenger hunt. No intention of going back to virtual, Carrie from Baraboo. No one was watching. We have demand for in-person services. I think that is something that we have talked about our last few meetings, that the virtual programs for some libraries, it wasn't getting, you weren't getting a lot of bang for the buck that you were putting into it. I like the idea of Murray and your colleagues doing the recorded programs, the bedtime programs, having them recorded. Carrie has a lot of examples for programs at Baraboo, including having snow dates for the snowman creation workshop, which there's a great idea. You take advantage of our Wisconsin winters and have a snowman building program. Poinet is doing in-person and visiting daycares, requiring masks. So your adult programs are in person at Poinet with about 10 people who are attending. The Poinet also is having a winter reading program, which starts on December 23rd. Cool. Send us pictures and information about that. Maybe you can tell us about it next month. Both virtual and paper reading logs. Cool. Cool. Mary at Stoughton has asked if the vaccination availability has changed anybody's plans regarding virtual versus in-person programs. Mary is thinking about small programs for kids age 6 to 10, where masks will be required, book clubs and such. Have any of you had programs in person or thought about masked programs for the elementary school set? Do you have any thoughts or advice for Mary? We're looking forward to seeing how, oh, Nicole, thank you.
Oh, we would love to, but we're
Oh.
just not allowed to require masks. So that would be our game changer.
Okay. This is another thing I'll talk to Tracy about. You know, what could policy do? What could library policy do to require masks? Unless you're in a county that has a mask mandate, I don't know if that could be done, but that's something we can talk about. And those of you in counties, you know, in libraries where you've talked about this, you can, you know, chime in if you want. Katie says in Poinet that they have an after-school program for 5th and 6th grade kids, 6 kids coming in. They usually wear masks, but not required. And in Prairie du Sac, Heather is having groups in their meeting rooms, small groups in a big meeting room. Ooh, who's doing the registration only masked story time?
We are in Mount Horeb.
Is that you, Hannah? Do you want to talk a little
Yeah.
bit about it?
Sure. So we're just trying it because if anything does change, we started planning it when they had said that the mask mandate was going to expire. And we've had some sign up sheets out and are getting some interest from families who would prefer to be like in a guaranteed masked environment. We feel like we're pretty in line with our community because a lot of places in town are doing all in person all the time. It's totally full. And so there was definitely a clamor for in-person programming at the library. But yeah, we're just gonna try it out and kind of see how it goes.
Cool. I'll definitely add that to the notes.
I have a question for everyone. We've noticed like we just don't have as many people in the library as we did. And, you know, is anyone else concerned that they're not coming back? I know part of our problem was that we're under renovation. So that does kind of, you know, exasperate our situation a little bit, but it is getting, I mean, we're starting to get things back. But we're just not seeing the people, and it's like, where are they? How do we get them to come back without necessarily doing in-person programs? How do we do that?
I don't think this is going to be very helpful, but we talk about that a lot in Mount Horeb too, because our numbers are still down since before the pandemic. They are starting to like creep back up, like you said, but the thing that I was going to say is that we did have a fairly successful and kind of large masked in-person program this past weekend. And we got a ton of people coming in who either hadn't been to the library for a long time or were new to the area. And then we got a lot of library card applications that day and kind of like the week following. So I don't know what the answer is without in-person programming, but yeah.
What was the program you did?
it was Santa Day. And so Santa was outside on a bench and the kids weren't on his lap. They sat next to him on the cute little like photo op bench. And then we had a petting farm out on the front. If anybody ever works with Haven's Petting Farm, they were really, really sweet and people really liked that.
I love the photo op part of it, because then like your library is part of people's holiday photos for the year. Did I see another hand raised? Oh, I see. It's something yellow behind Murray that looks like a hand. Either a stuffed animal or, oh, it's the caterpillar. It's the Beanie Baby. Yeah, I thought it was a hand raised. Carrie from Baraboo hoping that with in-person programming starting up, that people will be coming back again. More kids being vaccinated. Hopefully the numbers will be up. Every library director I talk to, this is an issue in libraries. When I was at the WLA conference a couple of weeks ago, it was like the #1 topic that we were talking about, either in sessions or certainly in masked up hallway conversations. It's the way things are right now. And there is this hope that, all right, vaccinations will bring people back. Hannah describes a very specific program which brought people back. I think that's a really good idea too. And it was still a safe program. It was outside. Some of it was outside and people were masked up. Any other programming?
It's just interesting. I think people are wanting to do things, because when we have had in-person programming outside, they've been pretty well attended. And we did also have a Santa thing it wasn't really our program, but we hosted. It was through the chamber. And that, I think we had over 200 people here for that. But yeah, I think people are wanting to do it, but it's just, I think they feel like they need to have some specific thing to come for, and we just can't provide that right now. And it's frustrating, I think, for everybody.
Yeah. Any else? I know that this is Baraboo without even looking at who wrote it. It is Carrie. 100 people came to their turkey bingo in-person program, which took place at the Civic Center gym. Fabulous. Masks were required because the gym is in a city building. I'll find some pictures of, or if you want to send me some, Carrie, of your turkey bingo program, because it's always so much fun. There are other successful programs that have worked for you that might work for others. We're right at 2 o'clock. Were there other questions that you had? Other topics that you'd like to address next month? And let me know throughout. I'll send out a call. So yeah, CCBC shorts tomorrow, book bites on Friday. If any of you want to talk about books, let me know. Otherwise, really nice seeing you all. It's nice to connect this way every month. And I hope 2021 ends healthy for you all and happy, and that we'll have a good 2022 together. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for continuing these meetings, Sean.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for your participation, everybody.